Welcome to Mrs. Peach Thrifty Living. I'm so happy you're here today. Today is Tea Tuesday. It's hosted by my friend Patty at Life with Patty and Kathy at Kathy's Favorite Things. You can go over and check what they're doing and hashtag Tea Tuesday, all lowercase, and see what everybody else is doing today. I'm drinking out of my Queen of Awesome cup today. It's another thrift store buy, and I just have coffee in it today. Actually, it's leftover coffee from breakfast, and so I'm going to have that. Today will be episode 17 of A Glimpse in My Life. If you haven't watched that yet, please go back and you can catch up on my whole life. And some of it's been my ups and downs in life, and I've enjoyed telling this story, and I hope you have enjoyed listening. I got my my little book out here to, I always write everything down where I can remember what I'm saying. Son, daughter, and I had moved back to this area. My husband had went back up to my ex-husband. Well, he was still my husband, but he'd went back up to begin a new life himself. Here we are down here. We had moved into, my parents had a home that it had come available next door to them. Actually, we have back gates that went into each other's yard. The kids got started at school, and then they started working. Gordon worked at McDonald's, and Gail babysat a lot at that time. Got involved with the music, as I had said last time, so be sure and go back because I don't want to make any of these too terribly long. I had began working at that corner market, got to know a few people. Everybody was nice and friendly, and I felt comfortable on my job. Have you ever worked at one of those that have the gas pumps, and you have to set the gas pump? That's kind of complicated, at least it used to be. And I would have to go out there and take a poll and measure how far down it was. I don't remember all the details, but that was kind of interesting. I got to know, there's a lot of men that come into these little convenience stores. Of course, a lot of them come in to buy beer and cigarettes and all that kind of thing too. And I don't know that anybody that I did go on a couple of dates, and I don't think either one of those came in to buy beer, because I didn't want to go with anybody that drank beer. That's just my personal preference, and some people would understand that, and some might not understand it. God was with me during that time. Now I'm going to go back in time just a little bit. I was raised on my street my whole life. And down the street from us lived the Peach family. Now, that's my last name now, Mrs. Peach Thrifty Living. I had no idea the things that were going to happen during this time. But when we were growing up, we played with the Peach kids down the street. My sister Barbara, that was just here, and their sister, the oldest sister, they played together. They were best friends. They spent the night with each other and had a lot of fun spending time with each other. There were 3 boys also, Richard being the oldest one, and then 2 others. And then there was another girl that was my age, and we were always in the same class at school. We were always friendly to each other. We never hung around the same group. We didn't get to go to dances when we were growing up. That's just the way we were taught at that time, and so we didn't think about it. We had our own friends and was doing our own thing, so we didn't miss it. Well, Richard would come to play with my brother in the yard. I'm 5 years younger, or almost 5 years younger than he was, and of course he went in the Navy when he was 17, and that made me 12, and didn't look at each other one time or another. He just I was a little Davis kid, he was a little Peach kid. Okay. 1970, one of the times that I had mentioned that we'd moved back to our area. I know I've told you that I sold Avon, and I had a territory, and in that territory was Mr. and Mrs. Peach. That was Richard's ex-wife. I sold Avon to her. She was nice. And one day he was home, and we was, when I seen him, we talked about our families, talked about our siblings and what everybody was doing and that kind of thing. And, never thought I was married, he was married. That was it. Okay, let's fast forward another 10 years or more, when I had moved back here. Now I'm talking about this time in my life. I had moved back here, and I mentioned the church that we had started going to and was getting involved in it and really enjoying it. And I had heard that Richard Peach went to church there. Well, I didn't know him. The last I seen him, he was married. We had an annual picnic at our church. By the way, it's still going on strong. Every year they have this same picnic. It's about 20 miles away from here, kind of up a little further up in the hills. And when I got to the picnic, someone told me that he was there. And I said, well, point him out. I was going to go say hello to him and his wife. I walked up to him after they pointed him out. I guess he might have looked a little familiar. And I asked him if he remembered who I was, and he said, well, you look a little familiar. He was sitting there with the lady. And after he found out who I was, we chit-chatted about our family again. Another week or two passed, and I would see him in the lobby at church. He was always by himself. And we would still talk about the family. What else you talk about? That's the only little common thing we had in common. I found out he wasn't married. That was a girl he had been dating. So now I'm not going to go back into his whole history because it was a little different. So eventually I might say a little bit more here and there, but at this point, it wasn't the best history of ladies, okay? When he wasn't serving the Lord before he was in church, he had been married, he had lived with one lady, he had been married to one lady, they had children, he loved children, he never had children. And so that was some of the things. When I would see him in the lobby, he would say, we're going to have coffee sometime. And so, yeah, that sounds nice. I didn't think of any reason not to. We didn't, so far at that time. And then one Sunday I was gone, and I had heard that I was gone because I was working at the little convenience store. And I had heard, he had asked my daughter where I was, and he had a sister that lived in Arizona, and he wanted to let us see each other, the one I was in the same classroom with. So that was in the back of my mind. So one day I was listening to the radio, and there was this contest. They had these contests. If you're the third caller or the fourth caller, or whatever, that you call in, you could win tickets to the Beatles Sound-Alike concert. And it was here close by. So I thought, oh, that'd be kind of fun. So I tried, and I won. I was the right caller, and I won those tickets. So I was thinking, I should, and I said it out loud. My daughter heard me. I said, I should invite Richard to go to that concert. I knew he'd been saying what he said about going to coffee, and I knew he'd been looking for me. So, okay. So I got the nerve. I called him, and I invited him to that concert. And, okay, here goes. Now, he said yes, and we went out that night. We went to the concert. And it was nice. We had a nice time. Chit-chatted, what do we talk about? Our families, okay? He invited me to go to the lunch after church the next day. And we did. And from then on, we've seen or talked to each other every day. And it wasn't long It was way sooner that he was telling me he loved me. I was a little bit more cautious because, you know, what do you do? Anyway, besides, remember I told you about his little, his background that I wanted to make sure, and he did smoke at that time, which he did not. He always hated smoking. He said, but he, you know, he's so hooked on it. You know, that's one thing that is really hard to get stop doing unless you have some help or something. In Richard's case, it was the Lord. Eventually, that goes later. He didn't have quite as many worries thinking that I did. First off, when he was married, you know, two of his, at least two, he had stepchildren that he loved. And he always loved kids so much. And he never had any. So that made it, I guess, even different for him. So, you know, he really wanted to have a Christian wife and someone that he felt like he could trust, because, you know, whenever he was not a Christian and out in the world, he'd meet his wives, people out in the bars. And, you know, if you're going to meet someone there, you might as well know what's going to happen. Maybe, you know, more than likely. You guys can decide that. I mean, if you like to go fishing, you should find somebody that likes to fish. If you like to go to church, whatever the case may be, you know, find somebody that has your love and interest. And he asked me, and finally, I knew I would marry him. And that was the beginning of another life for me. I lived in this house, and so he didn't have a home at that time, so he just moved in here. We fixed the garage, made it into a bedroom for Gordon. He was 17 at the time. He didn't mind. I think we sheetrocked it and all. It was pretty, made it a little comfortable place for him. And I will just say right here, I always knew I wanted to marry a preacher. I always said it. And I did marry a preacher the first time. And he was a good pulpit evangelist preacher and very interesting. You know, that's not to say that he didn't have problems. You know that. I've already mentioned several times. But my Richard, he loved Jesus, and I always said he was one man. He would, no matter, I mean, he didn't care. He wanted to let people know that he loved Jesus. And so that was his life. He wanted to tell people about Jesus. He lived a Christian life. It was settled in my mind. And so, October the 11th, 1982, we were married. We went to Reno, along with Barbara, my sister, and her husband, Selvin, who is now gone on to be with Jesus. And we got married. Well, actually, it was on Columbus Day. And actually, they were closed then. We went to Carson City, and we got married there. Married 39 years and 10 months. There's a lot happened since that time, in between that time. And I will be coming back to tell you more. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope that it will give you food for thought, some of the things I've said. If you're looking for someone to marry, God was with me. I tell you, it's not that I was perfect. God just helped me, and I so appreciate it. And come back again next time. I pray God will bless you today. And see you next time. Don't forget, it was Tea Tuesday. Look and see what everybody else is doing. #Tea Tuesday, all lowercase. And come back again. God bless you.